Alright everybody, after ranking all the sub-weapons, all the special weapons, and most of the main weapons, it's finally time to talk about some of the best weapons in the game, where they stand, and what I think about the meta as a whole. So, this is again, competitive player, not solo queue. This is in a team environment. You've heard this disclaimer a bunch already, so if you want to see more, subscribe and let's just do it already. Heavy Spotling. Very good for outputting Wavebreaker. Very good at being able to shred objects at a distance and stands a chance against Crab. Good with highly mobile comps. Does still struggle a little bit overall, and against Charger it's a bit harder, and E-Liter is still pretty good. The weapon's also a bit gear dependent, so there's that as well. But as a whole, I think Heavy is one of the backlines that actually stands a bit of a better chance in Crab meta than some of the others. Explo's a bit stronger in zones than in other modes, but the kit is fairly versatile. It is very good against Ninja Squid teams due to the point sensor. The Inkstorm is a very, very good combo with the main weapon. It does have the ability to hit the back of the Crab Rider, and the Inkstorm can hit Crab. Even though they can't damage the special as much, they're good at getting the Rider out of it and into ball form, which does stop it from firing. As a whole, I think it is a very good zones weapon, very good on specific maps, very good against specific comps, but can struggle in more general situations. Nautilus is probably the weapon I'm ranking higher than most people expect. I think, again, the point sensor makes this absolutely amazing against Ninja Squid teams. Inkstorm is still fairly solid, but the main thing is that Nautilus does way better object damage than people think. Like, it's actually pretty good at shredding Crab, especially if you already have a Storm on it. And it's also very good at bullying the main weapon of Splash. Splash has to resort to Burst Bomb spamming this thing. And its paint is not bad, its special output is not bad, it doesn't have any stat it's that terrible at, and its mobility isn't super limited either. I actually think Not is a pretty decent option right now. I think Not players need to get over the kit for a second and start actually testing the main weapon in this meta, because I think it's a lot better than people think. 10 attack. If people get better with Tri-Strike, I could see it being higher, but right now Crab's mobility makes it seem like it's not as good an option against it as I would like to believe. That being said, it still outputs a crazy amount of them. It is still a Splatter Shot, one of the best weapons in the game. It has Splat Bomb, which makes it great at being dived, and it means it's actually pretty good at the Splash matchup as a main weapon-wise. And even if Tri-Strike isn't as good as something like Crab, it does get a very high output of them, so it'll have the ability to use it in fights more often, and an entry tool is always very solid, especially as T-Tech players get better at lobbing strikes in order to effectively push while the strikes are going off. Carbon Deco, very good against Splash, very good if it can get in. Has Azuka to deal with things at a distance and object damage. Does still struggle on maps. We have already seen Volti, the main Carbon player in the Western scene, switch off it on maps like Mincemeat because it's just way too bad for Carbon. And on top of that, the value you get with Zuka is situational, considering you already don't get a lot of Zuka. To be fair, it is also a lightweight weapon that can run a lot of different abilities, so things like Quick Respawn and Ninja Squid at the same time are very powerful, and that might help it out, but right now, I only see it this good. And finally, 52. If Whale was a little bit better, I think I could see it higher. As a whole, it's still a solid displacement tool. It's still one of the best matchups against Splash as a main weapon due to having Wall, but it still struggles a bit on Lockout, and I think that's kind of its main problem. It's going to be really difficult to actually get in against a Crab and to get a good bit of specials in that situation, which makes it more comp dependent than I think people want to admit. Alright, so there's going to be a theme you notice with these. Not only are these weapons that are very good at what they're supposed to do, but they're also very good at dealing with Crab or have a strength so extreme they can be worth it despite Crab meta. And the only thing I mean is worth it despite Crab meta is E-Liter. The long distance pressure this weapon puts out is absolutely unrivaled. It bullies every other backline weapon in the game. The decrease in missile output is actually way better for this thing than people want to admit. Mines are very nice for covering flanks, and with Mines and Wavebreaker, you have solid survivability, and Wavebreaker is very strong right now. If it was a tiny bit better at combating Crab on high ground, I actually think this could be even higher, but that is the main problem for it, and the typical double splash flings it comp is built to be able to deal with E-Liter very well. At the moment, though, I don't think we've seen E-Liter able to combat that comp well enough to be any higher. Custom Junior absolutely destroys certain comps in the game. It destroys dualies. It destroys blasters without Intensify, which are still somewhat relevant in tower control. The Wavebreaker is very good against Crab, and it has the ability to output so much of them that the splashes actually have to reliably find a way to deal with the Wavebreaker, which is really useful on some maps. The Torpedo gives it a tool to actually keep itself alive with the rolled mode. It can bully backlines with the thrown mode. I think it is actually a really good weapon. The main problem is it struggles to fight Splash as a main weapon, but it just gets its special so fast and has such high output that I don't think that's that big a problem. I think Flingza is a bit overrated right now. I've seen a lot of teams sticking with it, even though it's clearly not working as well as it used to. But that being said, Missile is still the best special at dealing with an enemy crab. Flingza still has a bunch of paint output and painting range. Its horizontal flick is good at defending itself, and I think we might see Flingza players being more aggressive with the missiles after the patch, which could still push the weapon a bit higher. And I think right now it's still in a very solid spot, especially in zones. Ink Brush. This thing is elevated by being very good at dealing with crab. The mobility lets it get around the firing mode, especially on specific maps. It gets fast whale with a bomb and 1 AVP on one of the best painters, so it doesn't struggle to get entry tools unlike something like a 52, and once it gets up close, it is very threatening. The combination of the main, sub, and special are basically perfect synergy-wise, and that makes it work very well on top of being a lightweight weapon that can run basically any gear it wants. If you want Ninja Squid, Quick Respawn, Special Charge, Last-Ditch Effort, Stealth Jump, whatever you want, you can fit it on this weapon. Machine. A very good answer to Splash-O-Matic. Very good at playing at a distance. Booyah Bomb's still one of the strongest options. That being said, Booyah Bomb struggles against Crab more because you cannot mash faster anymore. With that limit removed, Crab became better against Booyah Bomb. And on top of that, I believe more options at dealing with Crab are being put in this game, which means the idea of Machine being the main counter to it, I think, is starting to drop off. I think we're starting to see more different options, that while it does not invalidate Machine's niche of being good at dealing with Splash and Crab, it does mean that it's going to have more options to deal with. Dualies. If you want a crab weapon with a bit better mobility for specific comps, this is what you run. It is still very versatile to work well enough in main comps, but it doesn't have the same amazing stats as Splash does. That being said, if you're going with things like Double Dually, I think it is more worth it. It has better object damage than Splash due to the roll mode and the suction bomb, and the 30 damage number is very nice for being able to combo with things like bombs. Stamper. The best mid-range weapon at being able to damage Crab. 3 charge slashes absolutely wrecks it. It can do this at a long distance behind cover. It has a one-shot up close to defend itself. The horizontal slash is extremely reliable damage. The paint is good. It has a burst bomb with perfect combo synergy. And while the Zipcaster isn't great, with the recent patch, it's able to use its main weapon more, which means you can zipcast around Crab users and threaten to shred them, basically forcing the Crab person to move. I think the zip buff actually did a lot for this weapon in terms of combating Crab, which is the main reason it's picked right now. And I think overall it's still very solid against a lot of options due to the versatility of the main weapon. It has the ability to deal with a lot of different things, and being especially good at dealing with HP stuff is very relevant right now. Tetra Dually. This is your quick respawn weapon. I have talked about this in the Wiper video, but TLDR, a quick respawn weapon's job is to come from side angles and take attention to let its team in, while it has the quick respawn to afford itself to die and come back in fights. Tetra pushes this to the extreme by also being a good fighter that tries to fight things like Splash-O-Matics, that tries to fight things like Tenateks or other short-range weapons. And in general, while it is limited by Reef Slider, the main and sub are a very good combination that allow this weapon to be one of the best QR weapons. However, it's not the best quick respawn weapon. That goes to Wiper. I have done a whole video on this, so for anyone skeptical of it, I highly recommend checking it out because I have broke it down in full detail there. But TLDR, the weapon has better paint, a better special that actually does things, and is significantly better against HP specials, which is exceptionally important for the role it's in, giving it the ability to actually fight and pressure things like Crab. We all know what this top tier is actually called, and we all know what actually goes there. Regardless of how positive I've talked about these weapons, every single one of them has revolved around Crab or fighting Splash. And that is because Splash is easily the best weapon in the game. Splash is a versatile main weapon that, while it does not have the extreme strengths of any of these weapons here, does have insane versatility. It is fast, it can jump, it can paint well, it has burst bombs for combo potential, it has Crab to deal with long range. Crab itself is a very versatile special that can deal with anything. You need survivability, you got the ball form. You need damage, you have the standard fire. Same for walling out areas. Are people hiding behind a corner? You got the secondary fire. Hell, you even got the burst bomb right after the Crab runs out for that. It just does so many things. In competitive play, almost every good team right now is running 2 of this thing, in West and Japan. In some cases, we're seeing 3 of this thing. Yes, Crab has vulnerabilities. It has a limited turning speed, and the rider is vulnerable. But with good Crab use in a coordinated environment, those are weaknesses that are very, very easy to make up for, and you have many, many shrinks that are by far more worth it to use. This is the weapon that defines the meta right now, and until Crab is nerfed, there are not going to be as many significant changes, because that needs to go to enable so many of these things to start having more of a chance. And it might bump down some of the higher tier weapons like the Splatanas, but I think ultimately, the main thing that needs to change is Crab needs nerfs. That is the state of 2.0 Splatoon 3. Thank you guys so much for watching this tier list, and I will see you all next time.